Just gonna wait for everyone to join before. All right. Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining this presentation today on trends and changes for digital transformation with Digital Main Street. So we're really excited today to have Daryl, who is the managing lead of Digital Main Street, with us here today. Before we start, just a couple of housekeeping items. I'd like to remind everyone that after Daryl's presentation, we will have a breakout session. So Daryl can answer any specific questions that you may have. And if you have any general questions from Daryl's presentation, you can send them in our chat. So there's a Q&A button on the top right of your screen, so you can pop your questions in there. And we will address these questions in the last 10-ish minutes of your presentation. This presentation will be recorded, and we will share these recordings with you after the event. So without further ado, I'm just going to pass the stage over to Daryl to get started with our main presentation. Thanks.
Thank you so much, Nicole. Thank you, everyone, for joining. Before I start, I want to give a huge shout out to the Small Business BC team and their partners for putting on a great event and allowing me to be part of it. So thank you guys for everything you've done. And yeah, I'm just going to jump right in. So very, very informal, guys. We're going to do a big Q&A at the end, but it's please don't be shy at the end. Please put your question. We'll get to all of them. Looking forward to chatting with you guys on the tail end of this. But so really what we wanted to talk about today was, we wanted to look at this idea of digital transformation from two lenses. Let's do a bit of a recap on how crazy things have been over the last 18 months to 2 years and some of the changes that we've seen. And, let's kind of pull out the crystal ball a little bit. Let's look into the future and see what we can expect for the next 18 months to 2 years. Okay, so as Nicole mentioned, my name is Daryl Jalot. I have the pleasure of leading this crazy little nonprofit called Digital Main Street. We've been around for about 5.5 years now. And in that time, we've been fortunate enough to support over 50,000 businesses with digital transformation, mostly in Ontario. We're starting to branch out now into other provinces, and there's a lot of exciting stuff on the horizon. Outside of that, I lead strategy for the largest retail publication in Canada. So retail is definitely my background. And I'm also an entrepreneur on the side as well. So I have my own business outside of those two endeavors. So just wanted to give you, and apparently I really like this suit jacket because I'm wearing the exact same thing as in that picture, and I didn't realize that, but that's a little awkward. So bear with me. But yeah, so just going to jump right in. So like I said, what I want to do is I want to kind of look at two things. This idea of why digital transformation is now table stakes for your business. And, I always say it's no longer, if or anything like that, it's when and how. But then also, what are we looking at in terms of 2021, the rest of the year, in 2022, and even beyond for that matter? What are some of the things that are coming up? And, I've put kind of 4 points there, but I will touch on a few others as well. And I will just warn you, sorry, I'll go back. I made my slides today a little wordier than I normally do. It's going to be shared afterwards. I did that because I know that there's a finite amount of time and I want to try and cover a heck of a lot of stuff for you guys today. And so this way, when the deck is shared, you'll have a lot of my kind of thoughts on the slides as well. So don't worry about trying to read the entire thing. We'll get through this and then we'll be able to share the deck after that. So I wanted to start with this idea of, how has digital transformation been accelerated? Again, because we know it has been, we know it's going on, but I really just wanted to show, a couple key stats. And some of these stats are from our partners. Some of these stats are from third-party firms. You'll see the references. But if you look at it, growing businesses are 65% more likely to have accelerated their pace of tech investment. So that's an article that Forbes did. And yes, there is some, it's skewed a little bit because they do focus a lot on the medium to large size business. But I stand by the number. I think it's very prevalent. I think it shows just, how important, again, digital is in the world that we're living in. From a customer engagement standpoint, from a transactional element, right across the board, it's this idea that this is now table stakes and there's not much that we can do. We just have to embrace it and really just roll with it. And then you'll see there, a study that was done by, forget who did that study, but I have the source there. But 93% of businesses identified they're more reliant on tech now, and a third of businesses expect up to 50% of their business to be digital. So we are seeing this massive shift. And it's a good thing, but it's also a scary thing because, we've been doing business for so long a certain way. And now, we've drastically got to change, how we operate, how we engage our customers, how we connect, how we communicate, and all of the above. And I emphasize the customer part because you'll see this last stat here. According to McKinsey, 75% of consumers in the last 18 months have tried a new way of shopping because of either, economic pressures, the fact that stores were closed, they didn't feel safe going out, changing priorities, whatever it can be. And that number there, that kind of 75% try new behaviors, I always call that, that's my mom right there. My mom is now an avid online shopper. 6 months ago, she didn't even know how to type Amazon into the website, and it's quite scary. But again, if I use her as the example, one, because I love her to death, but also if she can do it, then I'm confident that every single person can. So this idea of, again, digital is now table stakes. It's not if, it's not, you should think about doing this. It's, when are you going to do it and how well are you going to do it? And that's really one of the things that I want to leave you guys with today is as we look ahead, don't get discouraged if you haven't started yet or you feel like you're behind. There's no better time to start than now. As long as you're doing it, as long as you're making forward momentum, it doesn't matter how fast you're going. It doesn't matter how much progress you've made. I would just, my challenge to you guys as entrepreneurs and business owners would just be to continue making sure that train is moving in the right direction at all times. Some days it might only inch ahead, and that's fine, but any, forward progress is good progress. So, I highlighted 2 key points here. So the first is, the changing consumer behavior. So online sales grew by, 175%, some astronomical number. Consumers really changed the way they shop. And you see things here like digital contactless payments, people paying with, Apple Pay and Samsung Pay and stuff on their phone. It's been out for a few years now, and a lot of people used it, but now it's at the forefront because people are realizing, okay, well, and I don't know if you're like me, I haven't carried a piece of paper money in probably a year. It's kind of foreign to me at this point. Like someone hands me a bill and it's like, okay, is this Monopoly money? It just doesn't seem normal because I haven't used it, right? And then also like looking at your business model and how it changes operationally. I think, we get too sucked into the idea of digital transformation as being what I always call like the sexy stuff. And what I mean by that is your website, your social media, e-commerce, the front-facing stuff that's very, flashy and in your face. But a lot of the work behind the scenes that businesses are doing with digital transformation to streamline processes, to build out better operations, to manage staff, HR systems that are, cloud-based accounting systems. Some stuff that's going to seem, I'm sure there's a lot of you on the call going, yeah, well, we already do that. That's fantastic. But I think I always stress it because, working with the amount of businesses we do and, kind of asking them, what do you consider digital transformation? A lot of them have that very narrow kind of tunnel vision around, it is that sexy stuff. So I don't want the importance of that back end kind of office stuff that goes unseen to not be treated as equally important. And then this concept of data. So we're going to dive into a little bit more on the cybersecurity stuff and all that, but no matter what business you're in right now, you have the ability to capture more data than we ever have in the history of mankind. Whether you're running a newsletter and you're capturing emails, whether you're asking businesses to fill out feedback surveys, whatever method you have to collect this data is the first step. So figuring out how you can capture customer information so that you can figure out how to leverage it, I would say that's step 1. And then step 2 is, okay, now you've got all this data, what the heck do you do with it? And that could be, again, a subscriber list, that could be a feedback survey, that could be, maybe you've got somewhere on your site where, you ask businesses to take a questionnaire based on the type of business. It could be a multitude of anything. And I think that, looking at it from that lens, it's great, right? One of the things that my boss always says, and it's a saying that stuck with me is, we live in an era where you see a lot of data breaches, you see a lot of people, being compromised and data being accessed. And I know a lot of people are worried about that. So kind of the unofficial saying we've taken at Digital Main Street is, if you can't protect it, don't collect it. So like we're very fortunate. So as an example at Digital Main Street, the most like personally identifiable information we collect is just email address. We don't have any financial information. We don't ask for any, we're not asking for your SIN number or anything like that. So just as you're thinking about this though, how can you leverage data to better your business? It could be, again, on the marketing front, how you segment your newsletter. It could be, how you order product because you realize in certain customers are gravitating towards more products. So, maybe you adjust your inventory levels, but the data is there and we have the ability to capture it. And if you're not capturing it and then figuring out how you can actually use that to execute better for your customers and your business, I think you're really missing out. And that's just why I stress it's so important. And then you'll see just some stats on the right here, kind of showing the, 2021 to 2022. E-commerce represents about 6.5% of the total sales in Canada. That doesn't seem like a big number, But if you've been tracking it, that's up about 2.5 percentage points from last year. And so basically it's up, an insane amount, and it continues to increase too. You're seeing e-commerce sales almost like a hockey stick curve, right? Where they just keep going up and up and up, and more businesses are getting e-commerce enabled, and they're realizing the value of having multiple sales channels. So just a lot of, jumped ahead there. A lot of, just a lot of things for you to consider. Dimitri, I see you have your hand up. Just if you can throw your question in the Q&A, and we'll make sure we get to it just at the end. I just want to acknowledge that I do see it. So now just to have some fun with this. This is the world we live in. I'm guilty of it. We all are. We're all on our phones. We're all on our tablets. We're all on our computers. So I put this up here. This is a little joke. These are the people that you're dealing with. These are the people you're selling to. These are the people you're trying to get to buy products or services. The same kind of people who, when the Grim Reaper comes, the first thing they're going to ask is, can I take a selfie so I can post it? And this is just the world we live in. So again, I know it's just a little bit of a, lighthearted kind of play there, but it's a truth. And then I use this example quite a bit as well. If anyone's familiar with this, it came out about 1.5 years ago, and it was a high school in the United States. And what the teacher did was she had all of her students put their phones on loud so you could hear, and put them all in a basket or something at the front of the class. And so what you're seeing on these check marks is those are the number of notifications they got on each channel in one 45-minute class. And so this just goes back to, realizing who your customer is today, but also who's going to continue to be your customer for the next 10 to 15 years. This is just, again, sometimes it's unfortunate, sometimes it's very fortunate. This is the world we live in, where, you're seeing, kids get literally hundreds and hundreds of notifications. And I say kids, but, young adults being in high school. And these are the ones that are going to be, on their phone looking to buy from your store online. They're going to be looking to send you a message on Facebook to ask you if you're open. And so it's just, it's so important that we put this lens on it, because again, these are your current consumer, but they're also your future customer as well. And they're going to continue to be, and these numbers are only going to increase. So, okay. So I appreciate you letting me ramble on kind of what's been going on so far. I want to switch gears for the last half of the presentation, and I just want to look at, what's going on. What are we hearing out there? What are we seeing? Are we seeing any consistent trends? And what are we, and I just want to be clear. Some of the ones that I've highlighted are kind of the ones that I personally think are going to be the most prevalent. Not to say that there's other stuff that isn't. I just, when I was building this out for you guys, I wanted to make sure I highlighted, 3 to 4 that I thought were really, really important. But they're not the only ones. Think of it as kind of like a, this list is including but not limited to kind of thing. So the first thing, and you probably could have guessed this because I spent most of the presentation talking about this, but when you're looking at e-commerce, it really has been redefined. And what I mean by that is, you go back, let's say 2 years, 2.5 years, e-commerce and retail were synonymous. You weren't in retail, you didn't consider e-commerce. A lot of platforms they built specifically for retail. We've got a number of great partners in the e-com space, Shopify, Lightspeed, Square, Bookmark, to name a few. And a lot of them built their entire ecosystems from an e-com perspective for retail. And a great example, and I've said this to them and they've said it to me, so I have no problem sharing this on the conversation. But you ask anyone on Shopify and they'll tell you they're not the best platform for restaurants. If you're in the food and beverage industry, Shopify is not necessarily built to be the number one choice for you for a platform. They're so heavily focused on retail, and they're doing an incredible job. But now what you're seeing people realize the value of e-commerce and just having a transactional relationship with their customers. So that could be, your fitness studio doing group classes online. That could be, you're a consultant or, a doctor or, some sort of service-based professional where you're just using your site to book appointments and stuff like that. A great example, my cousin owns a plumbing company here in Ontario, and he technically has an e-commerce store, but it's all just basically used for booking. There's no transactional element on the site where, you're adding to cart and checking out, but yeah. And then really just looking at, I reiterate that stat at the bottom there around how important it is, looking at this concept of 75% are implementing new buying habits. And again, I'll go back to my lovely mother as the example. Like it's the consumers are changing. And this is the first time I can say, in my short career, that I've seen a conscious shift in consumer behavior. Before that, you'd see occasionally a big corporate firm who, I will leave unnamed, would, pop up around, the middle of September, and they'd put some billboards up around major city centers, and they'd promote the idea of shopping small for Small Business Month. And then all of a sudden the campaign's over, and that kind of just disappears until next year. What we're actually seeing now, though, is we are seeing that conscious shift. So you're seeing consumers like my mom and like others that are making the shift online, and they're figuring out how to buy online, how to sell online, how to just be part of that world. But we're also seeing, I just lost my train of thought there, sorry. But we're also just seeing people generally just buy into this concept of shopping local. So it's never been a fad for us. But like I said, you see big corporate campaigns around shop local. It's 2 weeks of a billboard and then it disappears. You are now seeing consumers that are going out of their way to make sure they support local. And the reason I stress this is because even though they want to, you still have to make it easy for them. Our customers are more demanding than ever. They want what they want, when they want, how they want, and they don't want any excuses or questions. The consumer is always right. It's the most cliche thing ever, but it is more true now than ever. And part of that is, it's not, unfortunately, we don't live in Field of Dreams, right? Whereas you build a local business and they're just going to come flocking. That doesn't happen in real life. So you still have to be cognizant of how you're communicating with your customers, how you're leveraging your brand. Are you able to sell online? Can they buy online from you? Can they connect with you on social? All of these things are going to go into that package to make sure that over the next 18 to 24 months, you're as well positioned to take advantage of this, like I said, this conscious shift of consumers wanting to support local. The way I always describe it too, and I don't have an image in this deck, is think of it like a Where's Waldo puzzle. So, when you initially flip the page, you don't see them right away, you're looking for them kind of thing. It's a very rudimentary example, but think about if a business is looking for a local clothing store in your region. That's basically what it's like. They go to Google, they type that in, that's what they're getting. They're getting the internet version of Where's Waldo. A million different results, some of them look the same, some of them are different. And every time that you do something to make yourself stand out, whether it's on your social, whether it's your e-com store, whether it's some of the other things we're going to talk about, you're basically narrowing that field of view. So now instead of me looking at this big box like this, now all of a sudden it's been cut in half. And then you do a little bit more and you get better at the XYZ, whatever it may be, and it cuts it in half again. So what it really does is it allows your customers to cut through the noise, get what they want from you when they want, engage with you, and really just have a seamless experience. Because all of this, everything I talk about today, is going to tie back to that one statement around customer experience. There are a ton of benefits for back-end process and stuff like that, but really at the end of the day, a lot of this is going to be tied to you creating a better experience for your customers. And it's the most important thing. So personalization. I don't know about you guys, but I do not read emails that come to me and clearly we're just sent to 10,000 people. I don't do it unless it's a newsletter from a company that I know and I chose to subscribe to. If somebody is not taking the time nowadays to send you a personalized email, to be honest and to be blunt, they don't deserve your time. We live in a world, like I said, 10 minutes ago, where you have as much data as we have ever had, and you have the ability to personalize everything. And that's what they want. Again, I say it here, they want what they want, when they want, how they want it. And something like speaking to a chatbot on the website, if anyone's ever seen those, you log in, it's just automated, and you just say, hey, I'm looking for this, and they send you some links and stuff like that, and it's all automated. A lot of people prefer that. In fact, 63% of people prefer that. And there's some very simple reasons, right? There's the 24/7 service, so it doesn't matter when. If you're a Nighthawk and you're on my website at 4 a.m, you can talk to the chatbot and figure out, where my product is or whatever it may be. But then again, too, like it's a lot of companies have made it a hassle to almost contact support. It's hard to find a phone number, or it's, they're always busy, or trying to actually get through to a person, it becomes very difficult. So this concept of, creating a chatbot to, really play off that personalized experience, I think will go a long way in just creating a better experience for your customers. And going back to email marketing. So if anyone is not doing this yet, like immediately start. As soon as we finish this session, go and figure out how you're going to create a MailChimp account or a Constant Contact or whatever, and start figuring out how you can get a newsletter out to your businesses or your members or your customers. It's going to be a massive, massive driver moving forward. And you'll see the stats here. 90% say the future of email marketing is personalization. And so that's going to mean not just sending out an email to say you sent out a newsletter, but sending out a newsletter where, maybe, and I'm just picking on the first person I see on my Zoom here because I've got it minimized, but maybe myself and Leslie, we like different things. And so I'm seeing a piece of content for section A and she's seeing a piece of content for section B. There's lots of ways to personalize it. But you'll see here too, 74% are frustrated when they receive irrelevant or non-personal emails. And that's fine. Because at the end of the day, I'm sure we've all opened up emails that we've been pissed off about. You know it's spam, but you kind of read it anyways. It's human nature. We do it. But that last stat is probably the most important. Almost 50% of people spend more money when that experience is personalized. That is an incredibly important and relevant number. And that's not all tied to data and email marketing. That's general. But if you're doing something that makes that business and that customer, feel like you've created this experience for them and they have a good experience, you will have their loyalty forever. And that's essentially what we all want, right? We want to make sure that, those customers are coming back, they're happy, and they're continuing to spend and support. So this idea of personalization is utterly critical. I cannot stress that enough. We no longer live in a time where you can just do for the sake of doing. So like I said, don't go and start a newsletter just to check a box and say you started a newsletter. If it makes sense for your business and you've got an idea of how you can personalize it, and, really make use of that, that's what I would do. And, I don't know if anyone subscribes to any large retail chains, but, a lot of them will, when you subscribe, they'll ask you for your birthday. So then on your birthday, they send you a special 10% off or something like that. So there's a million different ways that you can engage with them and you can do that, but it's 100%. You've got to personalize things and you've got to create a unique experience for these customers, especially as we're coming out of everything COVID related. And, there's consumer confidence is still a little bit lower and, people might not be comfortable going out shopping yet, stuff like that. We've got to take all this in consideration and really make it a place that people want to come and they feel comfortable. So now we get into my friend, Mr. Data here. I'm not going to read this because we've talked about it a lot, but, leverage data for decision making. So it's not, just capturing the data, so again, so you can check a box. It's, what are you actually doing with that? Are you using that data to become a more efficient business and provide a better customer experience? Are you using that data and insights to help maximize the performance of your business in terms of, customer engagement and customer conversion? Are you using it to create a bit of an internal loyalty strategy with your customers to ensure retention? Whatever it is, really. Again, it's step one is capturing the data. Step two is, okay, now what the heck do I do with it? But it goes back to that general sentiment of don't just do to do. We're not checking boxes here. Nobody's holding you accountable to I'm not going to say, show me your scorecard and make sure you checked off the box that says I collect data now. The more important thing is, what are you doing with it and how are you leveraging it? Because you also want your consumers to be confident that you're not doing anything shady. And, you're not going to get breached and their data is going to be, hacked or leaked or anything like that. And, your website is safe. They know exactly what they're getting into, why they're getting into it. But yeah, and the idea too of leveraging this data to create a personalized customer experience is massive. And you're seeing a lot of the big firms scramble right now. And you're seeing a lot of them do a really terrible job, unfortunately. I don't know if anyone saw it, but yesterday or Sunday, Wendy's launched a big campaign. And to be honest, I still don't get it. Like Wendy's, the restaurant, fast food chain, around like a Wendy's phone. And I'm sure it's fake, but it's like this concept of oh yeah, you can buy the Wendy's phone now, and it'll connect you to your local store as fast as you want, so you can order Wendy's. And across the board, unanimously, everyone was just okay, this might be the weirdest thing I've ever seen. Customer feedback was not great, so it was an area of there wasn't much personalization, and the experience wasn't great. I mean, it's highly ironic because I love Wendy's, and I would love a bad phone to my local Wendy's, but just from an overall campaign perspective, I think it really missed the mark. And cybersecurity. So hopefully you've kind of seen how this has flown. We've gone from the personalization to the data. Now it's, what the heck goes on when we have all this data, right? And again, it's that kind of cliche, if you can't protect it, don't collect it. There's no other way to put it. There's just some bad people out there that hack businesses and schools and governments and you name it. One of the largest post-secondary colleges here in Ontario was held at ransom. Their entire system was taken over. And they had to pay in Bitcoin to get it back. And I don't say that to scare you. This is something that we just all need to be, aware of. We need to be taking appropriate precautions, and we need to ensure that, we're putting if there's some times where if it's going to happen, it's going to happen. And that's just the nature of the beast. But as long as, we can step back as entrepreneurs and business owners and say, you know what, like I had every check and balance in place. I had my systems in place. That's the most important thing. But if you look at these stats, actually, you know what, I think the why is important. So it puts you at risk of incurring financial loss, depending on what the hack is, what information you're collecting, what data you're collecting, et cetera. But that reputational damage, I think, is more important. So, if you're breached and no credit card information is taken or anything like that, and there's no financial ramifications, that's great. That's a big victory. But are those customers going to come back to you now knowing that this has happened? I don't know. And so that's where I would consider it, right? There is the financial risk of, if you're hacked or breached, there could be some liability there. Actually, there is liability for sure. But then there's also that reputational piece where, now maybe you've lost that customer because they don't feel confident in your ability to collect their data. And I pulled some stats. So MasterCard Canada is one of our partners. I pulled some stats from them just to really, hopefully it's a bit of an eye-opening kind of 4 or 5 bullet points here, right? 50%, 1 in 2 small businesses in Canada has been victim to a cyber attack. 1 in 2. And I'm just looking at the numbers here. So we've got 132 people here. So that would mean that 61 of us have been victim of a cyber attack. That is a staggeringly large number. 70% of all cyber attack victims are small business. And then 84% of small businesses don't feel confident in their ability to mitigate cyber risk. And to be honest, I think that number is a little low. It's very rare that I meet a business that is completely confident in their cybersecurity framework and what system they have in place and do they use this program versus that program. And then you'll see here the part I've been harping on: 80% of data breaches include customer personal identifiable information. So it's that PII that you don't want to get out there, right? And so I think the reason I ended with cybersecurity before we jump into my last slide here is it is crucial that you explore options. There are so many tools out there for small businesses. MasterCard has a great program that we're going to be rolling out with them. There's the Cybersecurity Catalyst out of Ryerson University. That is a great product and resource for small businesses. They've got some free online courses and some modules that you can work through just to kind of wrap your head around it a little bit better. And the only other thing I would stress on all of these trends is you're not alone. We have seen the conscious shift in consumer behavior that I mentioned, but we've also seen a conscious shift in the amount of resources and support available for our entrepreneur small business community. So don't get overwhelmed by this, and don't feel like I can't do this because it's just me. Whether it's the great team at Small Business BC, whether it's the millions of online courses that are made available for free through LinkedIn Learning and stuff like that. There's a ton of opportunity for you to just continue learning. Digital Main Street, we have a number of courses online as well that are all free and accessible. So there's a ton of resources and support mechanisms available, and I just encourage everyone to take advantage of them. So I've got 2 more slides and I've got 2 minutes. So I'm going to just fly through these quickly. So bear with me. So I call out this idea of adapting to social media changes. And really the whole point here is, the social networks are changing literally every day. Algorithms are changing, popularity is changing. If you look at TikTok and the sheer number of people that are on that platform, like it's a serious player in this space now. Whereas before everyone would know, Facebook and Google, and so it's adjusting. And with this slide specifically, if you look at it, 41% of Facebook's users are now over 65. You combine that with the fact that they have had multiple data breaches and the whole Cambridge Analytica thing and stuff like that. If your demographic for your business or your services is not, people that are over the age of 65, maybe Facebook's not the best place for you to be advertising. I'm being honest. They're one of our partners. They're fantastic. I spend a lot of time and money on the platform, but depending on the industry you're in, that may be something you need to look at as these platforms continue to change and evolve. I think being static is something that is probably our worst enemy. And just being complacent with, I've always used Facebook, or I've always done Google ads, or I've always advertised on Microsoft, or whatever it may be, and not exploring other platforms because there's so many opportunities out there. And a great example, I called it out here, is, there's a partnership now between Shopify and TikTok. So realizing the power of that platform, they've launched it now where you can buy product directly from TikTok. So if you're following your favorite influencer on TikTok and you like the jacket they're wearing, they're working on expanding the integration in Canada right now. It's heavy in the US, but you'll be able to actually buy that directly on the platform. So some really, really cool stuff coming down the pipeline. And I want to end with this slide. So just a few other things, and I am going to apologize. If you notice every other slide, it says, what am I supposed to do next? This one, I forgot to change the header here. So before I share it, I will fix that. I just want to apologize for that title being on there. Other trends to be aware of. So this concept of accelerated mobile pages. So I'm not going to get too far into it because we're running out of time, but basically the way the Google algorithms keep changing, your website's loading time and how fast it loads everything is a direct correlation to some of your search rankings. So when you hear things like SEO and stuff like that, there's a million different things that go into that, but how fast your site loads is a defining factor in that. And it's also the longer it takes to load, the higher people are going to bounce from your site. You know, we live in a world where if your website takes 4 seconds to load, I don't got 4 seconds. Like I need that thing. As soon as I type it in and hit enter, I want that website popping up at me and I want to be able to go boom, 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 I'm done. And then the two last ones, which are really the big ones and the scariest ones. So augmented reality. So looking at how, you could, you see a lot of fashion brands doing this where, you have the ability to try on a pair of glasses. So I forget the brand, but there's a pair of glasses from a company where, when you sign on, you can literally say, I want to test this out. And so you just stare into the camera and it'll virtually put those sunglasses on you. So you can get a sense of what they look like. So there's some really, really cool stuff happening in the augmented reality space. But there's some really basic stuff too. So it could be something as simple as, you have an installation in your store and the QR code and they scan that to, to bring up an experience, or maybe they learn more about the product or whatever it might be. And then in terms of artificial intelligence, just to quickly 10 seconds to wrap this up, looking at things like, automation and customer segmentation and creating personalized experiences and everything. And when I say artificial intelligence, it doesn't mean this big bad thing where like you have to invest in a massive expensive system. It could be something as simple as, just building out some automated workflows with your CRM or your MailChimp or your email platform or whatever it may be. So just don't get scared off by any of these. I know they're kind of big bad behemoths at this point and they're relatively unknown in our small business space, but they are going to become incredibly powerful tools moving forward. And with that, I know I'm a few minutes over, John, but I'm going to turn it back over to you.
Yeah, that was wonderful. Thanks so much for going through that with us. Really, really appreciate that presentation. Somebody who works with a lot of clients who are trying to figure out their digital marketing. There's a lot here that I really took away from it as well. So I appreciate that. So now we're going to go into the question and answer period. So I'd encourage everybody, if they look at the Excel events page, if you look on the right-hand side where there's the question and answer tab, you can click there and put those questions in. Don't put them in the just general chat, specifically in the question and answer section. So there's a few questions up here. I also have a few of my own. But the first one is, Patrick was asking, is Digital Main Street doing programming in BC now or soon?
Well, you know what? I mean, if we're going to start with a loaded question, that's the one to ask, Patrick. So I appreciate that. What I can say is that we have a very strong working relationship with the team at Small Business BC. And there are some collaborative opportunities being explored through federal funding. So the short answer is no, nothing official. But it's definitely something that's being talked about and being worked on. So the hope is that very soon.
That's wonderful. There's also a question about resources that are available for the business. I know you ran through that at one point, but maybe just a refresher on which resources they could go to for this stuff.
For sure. And the one thing to stress here is there's no right or wrong answer. There's so many out there that is not, I'm not going to tell you one is better than the other. So I know, and John, you teed this up for me nicely, but I know you and your team do a great job with the businesses out there. And, I would definitely rely on the team at Small Business BC from a support perspective. But I think from like an on-demand online platform, digitalmainstreet.ca, we have 4 online courses. So it's about 25 hours total between the 4, but they're all broken down into bite-sized chunks. So that's just my shameless plug of the day. But I think, even something like looking at LinkedIn Learning and, the platform they have, I believe it holds true in BC. I know it is in Ontario, where if you have a public library card, you get access to LinkedIn Learning for free. Even something like Udemy, who has grown into becoming a behemoth in the online course world. You can get almost any course in the world, 10, 15, 20 hours of content for like $14. So I think, if you're looking for low cost kind of, resources, those are the ones. And then, there's obviously, some of the larger technical, brain stations of the world and stuff like that, that would be more on the more advanced higher end side of things. But yeah, no, and I would just look local too. Like I said, I know John and his team do great work. There's other organizations across BC, the Community Futures Networks and others, and your local BIAs, all that are going to have other resources as well. I think the biggest thing I would stress on that is just don't be afraid to ask. You'd be amazed at, with everything we've gone through, the resilience in everyone and the willingness to want to help is higher than it ever has been before. So everyone is there, as a champion for you guys, as small businesses, as entrepreneurs, and they want to help you. So just, feel free to take advantage of it. Ask them, book a time to meet, just ask them a question, send them an email. The worst that's going to happen with me specifically is I'll even put my email in the chat here. So on that, is I might just respond and say, hey, and I've done this a lot today. I said, hey, I'm out of office at a conference, I'll get back to you tomorrow morning, kind of thing. But always happy to help, happy to take calls. I would just, just look everywhere, but those are just a few places to start.
So I was also wondering, I have a lot of clients that I work with that when they're working on their business plan, they say, and I'm going to connect with my customers through online marketing or digital marketing. And I always say like, whoa, that's way too vague. You need to narrow that down. You need to say exactly how you're going to do it. So for those people that don't know how to figure out their mix of digital marketing, what they should do for their business, how do you suggest they figure that out?
Yeah, so it's a great question. I'm going to go back to what I said a few times during the presentation. Don't do something just for the sake of doing it. In the world we live in, if you decide to spread yourself thin across all platforms, and part of my French here, but you do a shitty job on one of those platforms, that's worse than not having a profile there at all. There is nothing worse than when you see a business with a Twitter or an Instagram account they haven't posted in 18 months. That's more detrimental. So it's my advice there is always, take a step back. I know we're kind of pre-wired, especially with everything going on, to just go. But sometimes there's value in just taking a step back, looking at the big picture holistically, and then realizing, where have you had success before? What platforms are you comfortable with? Who is your audience? That's a big one too. A lot of times, to your point, John, you see people that just assume, okay, Facebook and Google is the answer. But if your audience is that younger, 13 to 25 demographic, it might be a platform like TikTok, because that's where they all are, right? Learning those dances and doing the crazy stuff that they do on the app. So I think, it's get as much information as you can to build out your strategy, because you don't just want to pick a strategy, right? You want to build one out based on data that you have, based on information you have about your customers. It could be information based on the street that you're located on and the demographics there. Like maybe that plays into your strategy. So I think just taking the step back and looking at it holistically is probably the best way to start.
Definitely. That's wonderful advice. I think we have time for maybe one more question. I found it really interesting you mentioning about how many cyber attacks happen to small businesses. I think even at Small Business BC, we've received phishing emails before.
Yeah.
With 84% of people, whatever, that aren't equipped or don't feel ready to deal with that. How could they move forward? What could they do as first steps to try to prevent or be proactive?
Yeah, so I think first steps, and then I have a funny story to end with about cybersecurity. I think first steps is are you doing anything? Do you have an antivirus software? Do you have protection? Through your payment gateway, do they have security enabled? Like what are the things that you currently have in place? Do a bit of a self audit. Are you protecting that data at all, or are you just kind of sitting there fingers crossed, really hoping that nothing's going to happen, kind of thing? And then from there, there's lots of, like I said, basic resources. So there's a program out of Ryerson University here, but it's a national program. It's called the Cybersecurity Catalyst. And they've got a full online course that you can take. It's like an intro to cybersecurity. So it helps you go through like a bit of a self audit and some of the other stuff. And the only other thing I would say too is it happens to everybody. So I'm very fortunate. I've got a very strong technical team at Digital Main Street, about 300 people right now, and like we're even getting phished. So I've got people that are spoofing emails and sending emails to my team, being like, "Hey, I need to talk to you right away. Can you please call me?" And like now with an organization this big and I don't touch all the programs, I don't know everybody. So I'll get messages from people being like, hey, Daryl, I just got your message. When do you want to talk? I was like, what? I mean, I'm happy to talk to you, but I didn't ask to, like I didn't book an appointment. So even my team, whose job is to help businesses with this, sometimes they fall victim to it because people are really good now. They're really good at being bad. And they're making it look like this email is coming directly from me, and they've gotten, our team's emails, or maybe they just guessed the format or whatever it is. But again, I don't think I say this to scare anyone. But in the grand scheme of things, take a step back. What are you doing to protect your data and protect your business? Like I said, your payment provider, does Moneris help you? Does Chase, whoever you use, kind of thing? And if not, are there other third-party options you could look to potentially make a small investment in, just to ensure that you've got some additional protection?
Well, I think that's about time for us right now. So I saw that there was a few questions that came in right at the end there that we didn't have a chance to get to. I'd encourage for those people and everybody, check out the breakout rooms. Daryl will be there. That one starts at 11, I believe. And you can ask some questions there as well. I'd also like to suggest everybody check out our sponsors exhibition booths. They've got some special giveaways there, lots of interesting things. So you can check that out. It's under Expo Booths tab on the left of the screen. So Daryl, I'd like to thank you so much for this presentation today. It was really, really informative. And thanks so much for kicking off the day's events.
No, thank you so much for having me, and thank you to the Small Business BC team again. And hopefully I see some of you guys in the breakout room where we can have a fun conversation. Thanks, guys.